Hey everybody, welcome to the first video of the Coaster Foamer. My name is Nico, and I'm a coaster enthusiast from Ohio. My goal with this channel is to focus on obviously coasters, with a focus on park vlogs and coaster rankings or information content. At the moment, I'm relatively new to the Traveling for Coasters game, so I don't have much experience at only 106 credits, but I'm changing that this year. I've already visited Busch Gardens Tampa for my 100th credit, and I've got 2 road trips planned with at least 22 new parks throughout those and some day trips, and likely a few more thrown in as well. Today, I'm going to be counting down my 20 most anticipated new credits at these new parks, so without further ado, let's get going. Before we start, I'd like to give an honorable mention to a few rides. The first of those are the 4 new B&M Hypers I've got planned. I know, I'm crazy for not having them in the top 20 at all. Those being Behemoth at Canada's Wonderland in Vaughan, Ontario, Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey, Candemonium at Hershey Park in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. Most people would have these higher on their list, but I've never understood the hyper hype. I enjoy Raging Bull at Six Flags Great America, but I didn't find it as good as people say, although to be fair, I only got a front row ride. But I myself am a professional Diamondback hater. I despise the glaze that ride gets, and I've literally never had a good ride on that. I'm hoping for better from the 4 new, and likely I'm going to re-ride the other 2, and I'm hoping for better from them as well, but I'm not expecting it. My other 2 honorable mentions that I have are the 2 GCI Woody pairs at Valleyfair and Worlds of Fun, being Renegade and Prowler. I found GCI to be a mixed bag, but I've heard that these are some of the good ones, although they do run a little rough as I'm told. But I think they are getting partially retracked this season, so that should definitely help a little bit. I'm expecting these to be somewhere between Mystic Timbers at Kings Island and American Thunder at Six Flags St. Louis. To start us off at number 20, we have Hades 360 at Mount Olympus in Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin. Hades 360 is widely regarded to have one of the best layouts ever built, so that alone puts it on this list. Plus, the fact that it's an inverting wooden coaster is just awesome. Mount Olympus is unfortunately famous for not taking care of any of their coasters in any way, and Hades is apparently very rough from that, which does suck. Now, I can deal with roughness, but it's definitely going to take away from the ride experience and make it not as enjoyable as it should be. At number 19, we have Powder Keg at Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. I absolutely love launch coasters and have ridden another S&S launch coaster, Max Force at Six Flags Great America, and I love that ride. Now, I know this isn't going to be as good of a launch as that ride arguably has one of, if not the greatest launch on Earth, but I've still got high hopes for this one. The rest of the ride looks really great as well, with some good airtime and a cool layout through gorgeous scenery. Number 18 brings us to the Ride of Steel at Six Flags Darien Lake in Corfu, New York. I unfortunately never got to ride the clone of this ride at Six Flags America because my trip last year got canceled, but this one does seem to be the better one due to it having some good scenery on the lake. Now, I'm a very tall person, so I am a little worried about the restraints, but I'm really expecting this to actually be better than the B&M Hypers, hence why it's above them in my rankings. Now, at number 17, we have Fahrenheit at Hershey Park in Hershey, Pennsylvania. This looks like a very unique and cool Intamin, kinda like a mix between a Gerstlauer and an Intamin Blitz. It seems to be very intense and pull some good forces, and I think it's gonna end up being a really underrated ride hiding between Storm Runner in the same park. My only true worry about it is the restraints, but they do seem to be similar to the ones on Maverick at Cedar Point, and I can deal with those, so I'm not too worried about them, although it can definitely take away from the ride experience. At number 16, we've got Fire Runner at Lost Island in Waterloo, Iowa. Now, depending on when I go to this trip, this should be my first RMC Raptor, and I'm really excited for it. These ride models look really whippy and full of airtime, which is 2 things I absolutely love on a coaster. This one seems to be on the smaller and technically worse end of the Raptors, although it's kind of mean calling any of the Raptors worse. And I do have one I'll be riding probably later in the year that does look better, but with this one being the first one, I'm really excited for it. Now at number 15, we have Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure in Muskegon, Michigan. I'm a huge fan of ejector airtime, and Shivering Timbers just looks absolutely jam-packed of it. I have heard it has gotten rough recently, which does suck, but like I mentioned earlier, I can deal with that, as long as it's not some crazy jackhammer bad. As long as it's still giving good airtime, I'm going to enjoy it. and it does overall still look like a really great ride, especially with the length of it. It's just going to be awesome. At number 14, we have the Jersey Devil Coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey. This is the other RMC Raptor I was talking about, and this one seems to be the bigger, faster, and more complete version of the Raptor, with either it or Railblazer at California's Great America probably being the best of the model. And this one looks really good, especially compared to the one at Lost Island, and I'm actually really curious how this one's going to stack up to Fire Runner. At number 13, we have Monster at Adventureland in Altoona, Iowa. Now, I've always been a fan of the few Gerstlauers that I have ridden, and I've always found them to be overhated, and I never understood the hate really, but this one is loved, which means I'm probably going to absolutely love it, and it just overall seems to be one of the best Gerstlauers out there. It's tall, it's fast, got lots of inversions, and most importantly, it has a lap bar, which should make the ride experience incredible and really fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. At number 12, we've got Alpengeist at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. Now, this is one of the older B&M inverts, but it's also one of the best. I've always been a huge fan of B&M inverts, especially the long and intense ones. Now, I'm actually really curious how this one's going to stack up to Montu at Busch Gardens Tampa, which is my current favorite invert, as they do seem like a relatively similar ride. This one is bigger and longer, and a lot of people say it's better. And I'm curious to see if it is better or if Montu is going to keep the crown for my favorite invert. Now at number 11, we have Storm Runner at Hershey Park in Hershey, Pennsylvania. This is one of the last of its kind, and it just looks awesome. I absolutely loved the launch on Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point. Well, obviously this isn't Dragster, this is no 120 miles an hour, but this ride still looks awesome. It is fast, which does suck, and the restraints, like I mentioned with Fahrenheit, don't look amazing, but I'm still really excited for it, and I'm going to really enjoy the sound and the feel of that launch, as it's something I haven't experienced since 2021 when Top Thrill Dragster closed. And now it's time to kick off the top 10. To start, we have Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland in Vaughan, Ontario. Depending on when I go to this trip, it's more than likely going to be the third Giga that I've been on, following in the footsteps of Millennium Force and Orion, and this is the second B&M Giga that I will have been on. Now, I've heard a lot of people say this is the weakest of all the Gigas, and others say it's Orion, but at the end of the day, it's still a Giga. It's still going to be awesome, just probably not going to be the best in the park, because that's reserved for a coaster that is later on this list that we'll see in just a minute. At number 9, we've got Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. Now, I absolutely love Maverick at Cedar Point, and this ride really just looks like the modern version of that with a swing launch. Although I actually think I'm going to prefer Maverick's launch more because of just the pure speed and intensity that that launch has. This ride looks really great, and it has way better restraints over Maverick, and I'm curious which one I'm going to enjoy more, this one or Maverick. At number 8, we have Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. This is the second inverting wooden coaster on the list, and this one looks way better. I'm an absolute sucker for RMCs, with my top 3 being all RMC, those being Lightning Rod, Iron Gwazi, and Steel Vengeance respectively. This one looks to be an above average RMC, and I could very well see this landing in my top 15. At number 7, we have Alpenfury at Canada's Wonderland in Vaughan, Ontario. Here's the other ride I was talking about just a minute ago that I think is probably going to be better than Leviathan. Now, this is another ride that to a point you can compare to Maverick, but this one is more inversion based, while Maverick is more speed and width based. This ride still looks awesome though. It's got launches, airtime, inversions, the whole pack. I do have one massive worry though, and that's the restraints. I'm a big guy, standing 6'7", and I despise the Premier Skyrocket restraints. They take all of the fun out of any of the rides with them for me, and I'm really hoping that the restraints on Alpenfury are better than that, but if they're not, I honestly don't know how much I'm going to enjoy this ride. At number 6, we've got El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey. As I've already said, airtime is my absolute favorite, with ejector being absolutely on top, and ejector airtime is El Toro. This thing looks incredible. I know a lot of people say that it has gotten rough and it hurts, but you know what? They say the same thing about Magnum XL200 at Cedar Point, and I love that ride. And I have a feeling that it's going to be a very similar something to that, where people complain about it, but it's really great. And you've just got to be able to handle that intensity and enough of the roughness. And I really think I'm going to enjoy El Toro a ton. Now to open the top 5, we have Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion in Doswell, Virginia. This is the only other RMC iBox in a former Cedar Fair park, and it looks so good. Steel Vengeance is my number 1 overall, and this thing has been compared to kind of like a mini Steel Vengeance, which if true, that just means automatically I'm going to love it. The drop as well is inverted, very similar to Wind Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom, and I absolutely love that ride, especially that drop, which I think that's going to definitely add to the ride experience in a great way as well. Now at number 4, we have Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. This one was a difficult ride to place because I wanted it higher than 4, but the top 3 was just so loaded it had to end up settling at 4. This ride just looks so good. The feeling of spinning and going upside down and the airtime and everything that the ride has to offer while spinning is going to be crazy. It looks so odd and quirky in the best way possible. I'm a little worried it might end up being a little overrated for me, as I have heard that from a lot of people that it does end up being overrated for them, but I think I'm going to really love it, and I'm really looking forward to this ride. Now, the top 3. These are all great rides, and honestly, I cannot believe I'm going to be riding them this year. To start this list off, we have Sky Rush at Hershey Park in Hershey, Pennsylvania. This ride just looks so good. It's a hyper with incredible ejector airtime and the speed that comes with it, and it is incredibly intense. With the new restraints compared to the old absolute trash restraints it used to have, that automatically just made this ride so much better, and I'm unbelievably excited for it, and I know I'm going to love it. But there actually is one more coaster at Hershey Park that I'm more excited for, and that brings us to number 2, Wildcats Revenge. This is one of the newest RMCs, and it also looks to be one of the best. This is actually one of the few RMCs people compare to Steel Vengeance and Iron Gwazi, which means that automatically this thing is going to be gas. I know that this thing is going to end up on my top 10. I really don't think it's going to crack past Iron Gwazi or Steel Vengeance, just due to doesn't have the intensity and craziness of Iron Gwazi or the length of Steel Vengeance, but I can very well see this in my top 5. But there is one more coaster that I'm excited for, and that coaster brings us to the town of Doswell, Virginia for Pantherian, also known as Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. This ride is basically if Millennium Force and Maverick at Cedar Point had a baby. I cannot imagine the intensity of Maverick at the speeds of Millennium. This easily looks to be one of the greatest coasters ever built. The speed, the intensity, everything about this looks so good. There's so very few rides that had to be modified because of how intense they were. That just tells you how intense this thing is, and I have a serious feeling I'm going to love this. And that brings us to the end of the top 20. I'm going to be riding some absolutely incredible rides this year. My trips are filled with so many quality rides and experiences, and I absolutely cannot wait to bring you all with me on these trips. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to help me get this channel off the ground. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See y'all later.